to you this morning. Thank you for your truth. We thank you for your word. We thank you for abiding inside of us. We ask that you will continue to extend your grace and mercy. We thank you for allowing us to gather here this morning. We ask that you will continue to speak to us and continue to have your way up in our life. We pray that you would give us something to give us a ground to stand on and give us a foundation to hold us throughout the week until we come back. And in your holy and righteous Son, Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Turn with me to 2 Kings chapter 5. Y'all got it? 2 Kings chapter 5, we're going to jump off at verse 1. The man commander of the army of the king of Syria was a great man with his master and in high favor, because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. He was a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. So this morning we're going to really discuss how God can give you favor when you're supposed to be an outcast. So we got a situation here where they say that this man was a mighty man of valor and he had favor with his king, but he was a leper. Now, this day and age, we might not think of being a leper as much as nothing. But back then, being a leper then was like having COVID when it first came out. Nobody wanted to be around you. Nobody wanted to touch you. And it was considered being unclean. So at that point in time, when you was unclean, you couldn't be nowhere around nobody. That was when a woman was on her menstrual cycle. If anybody just was bleeding out their body, anything that was considered or impurity or unclean, nobody wanted to be around you. Reason being, because if you was considered impure, anything you touched had to be discarded, or if that person touched it, it was considered impure because they touched it. So that person and what they touched was impure because you touched it, because you was impure. So being an outcast like that, I mean, that had to be rough, especially at that point in time. So how can this man have favor, be a man of honor, and have favor whenever he's supposed to be an outcast? Only God could do something like that. Think about this. This man could go wherever he wanted to go. He found favor with a king. He found favor with God, but he was a leper. That makes no sense whatsoever if you sit here and look at it up in the physical. You're supposed to be an outcast. Now, how many of us were supposed to be outcasts and God showed us favor? I mean, you got this day and age, you might have a couple of us men that got babies all over the place. A couple women that might got pregnant out of wedlock. Some of us might have been prostitutes. Men too, they just call them gigolos. You might have had some people drug addicts. We know the rap sheet, but a lot of us that been there in some kind of way, God still showed us favor. I can tell you God showed me favor. That's how I'm able to stand up here and talk to y'all. And I'm not talking to people from a judge's standpoint. I'm talking to y'all because if you are still in that place, I was what y'all was. I'm no better than y'all. And if you look at all the people God used, God did use what we call damaged people. Some of the most tore up people that God ever used, God used them and gave them favor. We like to talk about David. David was a whoremonger. David was a murderer. And God still called David the apple of his eye. God used Noah. Noah liked to drink a lot. So don't think because you might have been considered an outcast that God can't use you or God can't show you favor. And this is what the world is telling people. They saying, you so far gone out, or you so far gone, or you made so many mistakes that it's too much for God to handle. That's a lie from the pits of hell. Ain't nothing too much for God to handle. I put it like this. When you ever read anywhere in this big old book to where God ever panicked? You might have read where he might have got angry. You know what I'm saying? He might have looked at somebody and said, man, look at my child, lack of faith. But when did God ever panic? I'll give you another example. You know they had a war in heaven, right? Whenever Lucifer called himself trying to overthrow the Father, what God was doing? Sitting there watching. God wasn't panicking. So God can show favor to anybody he want to. So God can handle any situation he want. And then whenever God got tired of it, what he did? Get out. Get out. Be gone. He kicked all of them out. So now they roaming a place trying to find somewhere to go because they all dry spirits. So from this, I just want us to focus on you could be an outcast. You could be something that's supposed to be not around somebody. But God could use you to bring favor to other people, and he could give you favor. All right? So in verse 2 it said, now the Syrians on one of their raids had carried off a little girl from the land of Israel, and she worked in the service of the man's wife. She said to her mistress, would that my Lord were the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of leprosy. So, of course, the man wanted to be cured of leprosy. I mean, look at, too many times, I don't think he really realized how blessed he was up in that situation. And we could relate to this. Everybody else can see how blessed we are and how talented we are and the gifts God gave us. But when you have them, it's kind of hard to see that, especially whenever you're looking through his eyes. Whenever he looked in the mirror, all he saw was leprosy. So imagine him winning all these battles, beating up all these people, getting all these praise from people, getting all this favor. And then you go home and shed off all that armor and look in the mirror and say, I'm still a leper. How many of us have been discriminated against because we black? Older folks could tell you about that. Some people that got so many degrees, some people have been successful, and at the end of the day, like my auntie said, they call them a nigger. Now she didn't let it bother her, but a lot of people won't admit it, but they did. So a lot of people that got what we call success and went home, looked in the mirror and said, I'm still a nigger. So it's easy for us to look at other people's situations and see how blessed they are. But whenever you have a turmoil, whenever you feel like you're a leper, can you see the favor that God has given you and the favor that's around you? Now keep in mind, I'm not telling you to be comfortable where you at. You are supposed to be content, because leprosy is something that can be healed. It was healed. But all I'm saying is, if you're in that certain situation, can you see the favor that God has given you till he heal you from that situation? Like, I'm pretty sure everybody in here could contest to at some point in their life where they felt like an outcast. At some point, some of us still feel like outcasts sometimes, because you feel like you crazy when you're dealing with God. Because God always tell you to do something that don't make sense. We talked about this last week. God will always tell you to do something and it don't make sense until the end. Or he might give you a glimpse of where you're going and not tell you how you're going to get there. No, this don't make no sense. Now imagine if God would have told this man, whenever he was a child or whatever, you're going to be a leper, but you're going to have favor up in the eyes of people. This don't make no sense whatsoever. What leper going to have favor in the eyes of a king especially? All right, so it was this little girl who was a slave, and I want y'all to take note on this too. God could use anybody to bring a miracle your way. This was a slave girl that wasn't even from where they was from. This is something that we need to know too. Too many followers of Christ are Christians trying to be all the way up here and look down on people because they feel like that they down here. They didn't look down on the girl because she was a slave. They listened to what she said, and that's another problem we got. We don't want to listen to nobody say nothing unless they got a title. You got to be a bishop, an elder, be done sold $100,000 in books, got to drive a Benz, and got to own a private jet for people to listen to something that you say, especially whenever it's dealing to God. Because nobody want to hear what sin bring no more. Nobody want to hear what's wrong no more. All we want to hear is God can bless, God can raise the dead, and God loves you. Love do cover a multitude of sin. But what about habitual sin? What about whenever we keep sinning and we know it's wrong? God will turn you over to what they call a reprobate mind. And you want to know right from wrong and wrong from right. You'll be calling good evil and evil good. So too many times we find ourselves in that place to where people don't want to listen to you unless you got a title. It don't matter. If God tell you to do it, Even if they don't get it right then and there, sooner or later, it's going to sprout because you plant the seed. So you can't look at how they react to it. And it's a certain way you say stuff, but some people say stuff in their own way. But just remember, if God tell you to tell somebody something, no matter how far they is up on the ladder further than you, it's going to take root, all right? And in verse number 4, so the man went and told his Lord, thus and spoke the girl from the land of Israel, and the king of Syria said, go now, and I will send a letter to the king of Israel. So he went, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 changes of clothes. So the girl told him, and whenever she told him, he went to his leader and said, look, this girl said somebody in this other part of this land can heal me. Now, that took a lot of faith. Because not only was he a leopard his whole life, but it came from somebody who was supposed to be low on the food chain to him, even though he was a leopard. He still had the favor up in the eyes of the king. So he had to have a lot of faith to listen to a slave girl to say somebody in another land can hear you. So he went to his king, and not only did he go, he took presents with him. Now, this is the part where I tread the fine line, because this might make some people mad. You are supposed to bless the man of God. Yes, you are. Whenever stuff happens, you are supposed to bless him. But we're not supposed to ask y'all to give us y'all house. We're not supposed to tell y'all if your light's about to get cut off, give it anyway, and God will multiply it. Don't you know that it's a verse in the Bible that say if a man can't pay his bills, he ain't hitting on nothing? If you think I'm lying, Google it right now. I'll wait. So, yes, you are supposed to bless the man of God. But we're not supposed to be sitting up here soliciting y'all to do it. Our job is to give y'all the word that God gave us. And then it works on your heart. Then you give accordingly to how God tells you to give. I'm not going to stand up here because I want a new car and tell y'all, well, I've been in my study all night and I want a new jet. Y'all going to pay for it. Man, if y'all give me that money, something wrong with y'all. But some people are so vulnerable in this day and age. Some people want a blessing so bad that instead of them sitting down and talking to God for themselves and reading the scriptures for themselves, they try to come through the preacher. That's the problem. We put too much emphasis on the man. Yes, we are preachers, we are teachers, we are ministers, yes, we prophets, but we just like y'all. That's why anytime preachers or ministers make a mistake, the first thing they do is step on them. I knew it the whole time. I knew they wasn't worth nothing. I knew they wasn't this. I knew they wasn't that. Now keep in mind, we are supposed to be above reproach. But y'all, please cut us some slack, especially the ones who work like y'all do. I'm one of them. But all I'm saying is, yes, he did bring gifts. But what he brought didn't break him. What he brought didn't cause him to go into bankrupt. What he brought didn't cause his family to starve, right? Lost my spot. I'm in verse 6. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, which read, when this letter reaches you, know that I have sent to you the man, my servant, that you may cure him of his leprosy. And when the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes and said, I am God. Am I God to kill and to make alive? This man sends word to me to cure a man of leprosy. Only consider and see how he is seeking a quarrel with me. So now we run into what we call a situation. Well, a problem for them, because, you know, we try not to say problems around here because it's going to stir pops up, and I'm trying to stay on the good side. I ain't trying to get no whooping. But anyway, so he, after all this happened, he go to the king, he bring him the letter. Now the king was smart. The king didn't try to do nothing he knew he couldn't do. The king did what any natural person with sense would have did. How am I supposed to hear you? Am I God? How am I supposed to hear you? He sent a letter to me, bro. This dude must be trying to stir up some type of mess. So the king went into a panic. Now watch where I'm next. And verse 10? Oh, 8, yeah, thank y'all. But when Elijah, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, he sent to the king, saying, why have you torn your clothes? Let him come now to me, that he may know that there is a prophet in Israel. So when the man came with his horses and his chariots, stood at the door of Elijah's house, and Elijah sent a messenger to him, saying, Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean. So Elijah, being the man he was, heard about what happened and said, You know what, king? Send him my way. God used me, so I'm gonna get him straight. So he go, and the most opportune thing happened. Whenever we go for a healing, we expect the very thing that this dude expected. Elijah didn't come to the door. Elijah sent the servant to the door to tell him what to do to get the healing. Now that just wouldn't sit right with some of us. You mean to tell me I traveled all the way over here listening to a slave girl and you send your servant to the door? You don't even let me come in and get a glass of water out here up in all this heat. I done rode all this time. You send your servant to the door to tell me to wash off in the river. That's the dirtiest river in the land. All you had to do was come out here and wave your hand and cleanse me. Sometimes it don't work like that. Sometimes it just don't work like that. Sometimes when you looking for that healing or looking for that miracle or looking for something to change up in your life, sometimes it's just a test of your faith. Sometimes you will have somebody sent to you who not the person that you thought it was going to be to tell you to do something. Now, once again, if you go back, he shouldn't have got mad because the slave girl was the one who told him to come over here. So it's also God used her to send him over there too. So once again, he got to follow instructions. That's something else we got a problem with as followers of Christ. Following instructions. If one of our overseers or our elders telling us something out of love, we get mad with them. Why would I get mad with Pops because he tell me I'm too short? When I know I am. Why would I get mad with Pops if he tell me I need to wear suits? I know I do. It's just hot. So another problem we got is instruction. But what he did, he followed the instruction after he got upset and washed off up in the river, and the man ended up getting clean. Now, the way I think God got the glory out of this is because he could have sent him to a fresh spring water. He sent him to dirty water. That's like if somebody got a disease or something in here, and Pop said, go outside and rinse off up in that ditch out there. A lot of us ain't gonna go. I'm just dumb enough to dive off in there and swim for a little while. But a lot of people wouldn't go because they feel like, man, you got bottled water back there. Y'all got juice and crackers for communion. You got all right up in that thing. You gonna make me go swim in ditch water? But the way God do stuff, he gonna do it to where only he can get the credit for it. Now, I'm not saying that if it was done the other way, God couldn't get the credit, because we always give him the glory. But think about it. Who else gonna take credit for muddy water healing somebody? We can't take credit for that. We don't even know what was in that water back then. They ain't have no indoor plumbing. Use your brain. So you would think if he would use that water, he might get something like gangrene. He followed instructions, and the man got healed. So the man tried to, and this is an interesting part too. The man tried to give what he brought to Elijah. Elijah said, sure as God is alive, I ain't taking it. Take it with you. I don't want it. So after he left, Elijah's little sidekick was like, man, he let him slide. He let all that stuff go. I'm going to go get some of that. So what he did was he let the man get a ways away. Take off. Go and run him down. Say, my overseer said, there's some people here from out of town, basically is what he said. Some people here from out of town, and he need that, what you was going to get to him. So the man gave it to him. Now, how he didn't think a man that's in tune with God not going to know he went got that after he just sent somebody to get healed through you is beyond my understanding. So he take the stuff and come on back, and he asks him, where you been? Oh, I ain't been nowhere. You going to lie to the man to his face after God just used him to use you to do a miracle? So he told him, he said, look, since you lied and won't be greedy, what just was healed from the man, you going to get it now. And we got to be careful with that. Greed. Now this is for me because I'm number 2. If Pops do something for somebody, or just in general, somebody try to give him something, and I call myself being slick, where he tell Pops walk off until they leave and run out and get it. You don't think God going to tell Pops that? I'm his number 2. God used him to put me in this. You think I can lie to this man? That's why I don't worry my nerves trying to. He asks me something, I just tell him the truth. Don't make no sense to lie. So this is going to show you, lie and greed won't get you nowhere neither. But what I'm trying to get everybody to understand is, it don't matter if you was an outcast. It don't matter what you think wrong with you. While you in that situation, you have to see the favor that God has given you. A lot of people jobs got favor because they there. And I know you hear this a lot, but think about it. If you was to leave that job or leave whatever situation you in, it wouldn't be as favorable as it was unless you was there, right? And we getting to this point where people starting to leave the faith for what we call for ease, right? So I put it like this: a lot of people hit McDonald's and fast food drive-thrus because it's easy. It's another word I'm looking for, but I can't think of the word right now. It's convenient. A lot of people leaving the faith for convenience because God challenges you. God challenges your flesh. As long as you're alive, it's going to be a war between your flesh and your spirit. But you can walk through fire and not get burnt. That's not just a story up in the scriptures. That's actually true. My auntie just told us, and she told me this before y'all even came in here. She was telling me, and y'all should have seen my face back there. I said, "Woman, you need a Golden Globe award or something." This woman was pregnant. Like, I done seen some women who was in so much pain whenever they pregnant, they can't even walk. They be on bed rest. And God forbid, I ain't having no child. I'm not selfish. But this woman was saying while she was pregnant, she would walk door to door and ring bells and get a job. Wow. Then she said somebody stuck a dog on her. And you know, back then, them prejudice folks believe in having big old wolf-looking dogs. So I could imagine the dog that she was fighting. Then she said she kept cleaning. Then one time a dude came to the door, a child, and called her a nigger. Now, after all this stuff happened with her son being locked up, she never complained. All she said was God was good. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Woman, I ain't got nothing else to complain about. Thank you. Make sure you tell it early this morning so I can hear it again." After her giving that testimony, I have nothing to complain about. I don't know about y'all, but for me, after hearing that, I have nothing to complain about. So even though you may feel like you're an outcast, even though it may look like the cards are dealt against you, it's always a way you can see the favor that God has given you, and you're going to always be favorable to other people. That's all I got.